Hang on a second, please. I'm just trying to get YouTube going. All right, good. So, word for word. Rajavata, the fortunate king said, Yata, as it is. Sandarayate, the conception is made. Brahman, O Brahman. Dharana, conception. Yatra, where and how. Samvata, in a summary. Yadrishi, by the way by which. Va, or. Hare, extricated. Ashu, without delay. Purushasya, of a person. Mana, of the mind. Malam, dirty things. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The fortunate king Pariksit, inquiring further, said, O Brahmana, please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied and how the conception can be fixed so that the dirty things in a person's mind can be removed. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The dirty things in the heart of a conditioned soul are the root cause of all troubles for him. A conditioned soul is surrounded by the manifold miseries of material existence, but on account of his gross ignorance, he is unable to remove the troubles due to dirty things in the heart accumulated during the long prison life in the material world. He is actually meant to serve the will of the Supreme Lord, but on account of the dirty things in the heart, he likes to serve his concocted desires. These desires, instead of giving him any peace of mind, create new problems and thus bind him to the cycle of repeated birth and death. These dirty things of fruitive work and empiric philosophy can be removed only by association with the Supreme Lord. The Lord, being omnipotent, can offer his association by his inconceivable potencies. Thus, persons who are unable to pin their faith on the personal feature of the Absolute are given the chance to associate with his Virat Rupa, or the cosmic impersonal feature of the Lord. The cosmic impersonal feature of the Lord is a feature of his unlimited potencies. Since the potent and the potencies are identical, even the conception of his impersonal cosmic feature helps the conditioned soul to associate with the Lord indirectly, and thus gradually rise to the stage of personal contact. Maharaj Pariksit was already directly connected with the personal feature of the Lord, Sri Krishna. And as such, he had no need to inquire from Shukadev Goswami about where and how to apply the mind in the impersonal Virat Rupa of the Lord. But he inquired further. But he inquired after a detailed description of the matter for the benefit of others who are unable to conceive of the transcendental personal feature of the Lord as the form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. The non-devoted class of men cannot think of the personal feature of the Lord. Because of their poor fund of knowledge, the personal form of the Lord, like Ram or Krishna, is completely revolting to them. They have a poor estimation of the potency of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 11, it is explained by the Lord himself that people with a poor fund of knowledge deride the Supreme Personality of the Lord, taking him to be a common man. Such men are ignorant of the inconceivable potency of the Lord. By the inconceivable potency of the Lord, he can move in human society or any other society of living beings and yet remain the same omnipotent Lord, without deviating in the slightest form from his transcendental position. So, for the benefit of men who are unable to accept the Lord in his personal eternal form, Maharaj Pariksit inquired from Shukadev Goswami how to fix the mind on him in the beginning, and the Goswami replied in detail as follows. Om Ganati Virandasya, Gyana Shalakaya, Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitan Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Tapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaisnavamscha. Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sijivam. Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Krana Sindhu Dinabandhi Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavadeshwari Vishabhansite Devi Paramani Hari Priye Panchakapadru Vescha Kripa Sundibhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini. Nirvishesha Sunivadi Paschatya Deshitarni. Hare Krishna. So, the translation again. The fortunate King Pariksit, inquiring further, said, O Brahmana, please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied and how the conception can be fixed so that the dirty things in a person's mind can be removed. Hare Krishna. This is a very important question, as many questions asked by Maharaj Pariksit are important for our daily lives to put us in the right perspective about material life, life here. Only the necessary part being one we should pay attention to, and the spiritual part of it, the aspect of it, the practice that we are going through now, in order to get back to the spiritual world, to fit in with the residents of the spiritual world, would be regarded as most important. So the Lord has arranged nicely for Maharaj Pariksit to be met at the banks of the Ganga by Shukadeva Goswami. And now he's speaking the commentary of the Vedanta Sutra, the Bhagavad Purana, the cream of the crop of the Vedas, Srimad Bhagavatam. So the fortunate King Pariksit, let's focus a little bit on fortunate. Why fortunate? Maharaj Pariksit was fortunate on two accounts. One, he was going back to Goloka Vrindavan. Even there's a third account. So he was going back to Goloka Vrindavan. The second point was that Shukadeva Goswami had met up with him and now talking about Srimad Bhagavatam at the end of his life. It doesn't get any better than that. And thirdly, this was all the arrangement of the will of Krishna. So that shows how affectionate Krishna is to his devotees. As Lord Brahma said in a prayer, in a wonderful pastime in the spiritual world, Lord Brahma was actually invited to preside over a wedding. Very, very, very nice. And he offered the prayers to Radha and Krishna. And he said also, Krishna is without beginning, but he's the beginning of everyone and everything. He means Lord Brahma, said that Krishna is very affectionate to his devotees. If we surrender to Krishna, we'll see the examples of the affection that Krishna has for us in our own lives, personally. Personally, it happens one situation after another. I'm sure you all have your stories of things that have happened when you're dependent on Krishna. So this fortunate king says, O Brahmana, meaning Shukadeva Goswami, describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied. Now, the dirty things in the mind also need to be removed. We have harbored dirty things in the mind if we've been here for countless lifetimes. Then those lifetimes were times that we lived not so great a spiritual life, because if we lived spiritual life, we'd be back in Vaikuntha by now. But we still had a long way to go because we were still attracted to the dirty things that were, packaged to feel like it was wonderful. But actually, it's not wonderful. It's a suffering situation, but it's disguised like you can make it. You can make it in this world. And you just have to try hard. See other people have, and look how wealthy they are. Mm? Just like when people we talk about when we talk about or when the government talks about lottery, oh, see, somebody won $1 million, so you also can. They're always trying to lure you. Mm? The insurance companies lure us. See, give me some money because something happens to your property. To fix it will take a lot of money. So we'll fix it for you. You just give us a small amount of money. So it seems that, oh, yeah, I pay a small amount of money, something goes wrong, then they'll pay the big money to fix it. And so we say, okay. And they got to the point where some governments have made it compulsory. You have to take insurance. Hmm? Why? The real reason is so much money collected compared to what they pay out. There's more money collected than is paid out. But individually, we think, oh, we pay a small amount of money and something goes wrong, then a big bill that comes for fixing it, that's handled by the insurance company. Everything is packaged like that. Hmm? In the meantime, the Lord realizes we're in trouble. And He's trying to get us to go back home to have wonderful enjoyment, life full of so many variegated forms of enjoyment, things that we want, we can get, just desiring, we can get. But still, we say, oh, we want to be here. We say, oh, if we work hard, we'll make it. Therefore, we begin to work hard. The body starts breaking down. If you don't see it, look at the old people around you. They were also young a few decades back, and they were working hard just like we are now. Hmm? So the mind is being tricked in this material world. So King Pariksit is asking Shukadeva Goswami, describe how the mind has to be applied in such a way that the dirty things in that mind can be removed. Hmm? Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that the dirty things in a person's heart, in the conditioned souls, heart, are the root cause of all the troubles for him. When we turn our minds towards Krishna and live a spiritual life, then the troubles are there, but you see a different kind of situation for us. You see the hand of the Lord in protecting us. You see, we could get into some trouble, but the Lord takes us out of the trouble. And some others, it looks like it's packaged like trouble, but actually they are lessons to be learned. The Lord allows that to happen because the lessons that we learn causes us to grow and have a better understanding. For example, we are used to just keeping a lot of things in secret to ourselves. But when I came into devotional service, my spiritual master, Bhakti Maharaj, told me, all of us, a devotee's life is an open book. At the time, we didn't understand, but we took it in. And as time went on, we realized that the more that we conceal, the more bewildered we become. The more we open up and talk about our problems to the person who can help us, the better off we became. So the devotee has to let go of the material way in which we've been told to live and change to spiritual life. And spiritual life has its own spiritual culture. And even the things that we need to do, of course, because we have these material bodies, and therefore that's what we're using in every situation, the senses, the mind, the intelligence. In all situations, if you haven't realized it, those who have been in Krishna consciousness for a while, you realize that if you try to live a Krishna conscious life, that your own culture has to take a backseat. Your material culture, wherever you were born, and what they say is and is not, takes a backseat, meaning that you cannot apply all of what you were, grew up with, or what I grew up with. I can't apply all of that to my life. Some things have to be given up. Mm-hmm. For some of us, and a good many of us, even comes to diet. Things that we used to put in our foods to eat, now, because of Krishna consciousness, we can't put it in. And some other things too that we weren't eating now becomes part of our diet. And even the way we cook, the consciousness changes. And the way we offer before we eat is not the way we used to do in our own culture. So a lot of things do change. So the mind now is applied to Krishna conscious life, which is a culture in itself. And by applying that and working at it, we realize that we're doing the right thing. Our intelligence will, in fact, tell us this is the right thing. This is actually better for me. And with that thought, then we begin to be happier. We realize, yes, the problems are there in the material world, but actually, I'm put in a situation where I'm in a category different from the way conditioned souls are living. And this is a better category because not only does it make it easier to handle things here mentally, but it also, at the very end, takes me out of this jail. I get to go back to Godhead. So a conditioned soul, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, a conditioned soul is surrounded by many types of miseries of material existence. And in categories in the Shastra, they are botheration by one's own mind and body, botherations by other living entities, and botherations to the demigods, and that's basically the weather. And that's basically the weather. So many things happen that at best we have to put up with it and hope that it's difficult, but it will go away. And it is like that, true enough. Things happen and then they're gone, and then nice things happen and that's also gone. And everything is temporary. We just toggle back and forth between happiness and distress at the material level. But when we start chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra seriously, with great attention, we see that our mind is clear. We see that we can live a life where we feel confident of the protection of the Lord. We want to be happy, but we don't know how to be. The conditioned soul situation is he's ignorant. So he's not able to remove the troubles due to the dirty things in his heart. In fact, he thinks that many ways can be somehow invented or manufactured, and it will make us happier. But we realize that the more things that we get, the more anxiety we get put in. It's like the material world is like a ball. A soft ball. You poke one side thinking that you're going to get something from it, and then it just pops up on the other side. So you do this, and then there's some reaction to it in another way. So every time we try to advance, there's other problems. And then there is the false ego. And the false ego acts at the individual level, at a community level, at a national level. Hmm. There are some people that say, I want my country to be number one. It's talking about those who are leaders. And then they begin to fight each other and strategize. And everything they do is in a mode of ignorance. But they don't know. And they're caught up in how to get out of situations. So they will meet as leaders, but for the camera, they'll smile and they shake hands. But at the back of their minds, they're thinking differently. So that is material world, all the way down to the individual person and their family and what they think and what they do. The solution is Krishna consciousness, but not many people know it. Hmm? So it is like that. The attempts to be happy in the material world is followed by some sort of misery or disappointment. And then some people say, well, maybe I can get going and be better off than others. And I'm going to try a nefarious way to do it. I'm going to cheat. Hmm? Krishna Prabhupada says the world is full of the cheaters and the cheated. So a person tries to cheat to get ahead, but then the law of the land will catch up with him in this life. And if not, then the law of Jamaraj, the superintendent of death, will catch up with him before the next life. Hmm? So what are we supposed to do? Well, we're actually meant to serve the will of a supreme personality of Godhead. But because of the dirty things in the heart, we're trying to serve some concocted desires that we ourselves have made up, thinking that it will make us happy. Hmm? So this material world is like that. There are people who go on cruises in very, very nice ocean liner, big one. And there's so much for sense gratification on board. But it's sitting on the ocean. And the ocean's waves determine whether you're happy on the ocean liner, in the ship, or not. Sometimes, out of nowhere, the waves can get big and start battering the boat and tossing everybody around. And then the person is so-called vacationing, will wish they were on land. It's like that. It's like that. We never really get any extended happiness anywhere, rich or poor. It doesn't matter. Material world has more than enough ideas for people to get distracted from Krishna consciousness. And people think we can enjoy this material energy, but it still gives problems. Why? Material nature is designed like that. It's not designed for us to be as happy as we think we're going to be. It's not designed like that. Hmm? It is jail. So, and deal with hard labor too. Many of us have to work hard to acquire whatever we want. Hmm? So, even if we get new gadgets, then anxiety comes. That never goes away. So, Srila Prabhupada describes our situation. In our situation, he says it's similar to, and this is in the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita in book 7. And towards the end, he had gone to Mexico. He was getting ready to leave, and he gave um, lecture, questions time, and he answered a few questions. And he brought up this point. We in the material world are in a situation similar to a son, S-O-N, son, leaving the home of our father, who is rich, very rich beyond compare. Hmm? Back home, we have everything provided. And we live in luxurious surroundings, jeweled surroundings, everything owned by our father. And he is a loving father. Therefore, we have the freedom to use whatever we want. And in love, we serve him, and he makes us live a wonderful life also in love. So it's love and exchange all over the place. Yet, for want of independence, we have left it all. and come to a place for a more difficult life, thinking that we being able to make our own decisions outside of our Father is better. So we've chosen this existence, which is actually more difficult because our lives now involve struggle, tiredness, sickness, and anxiety. Hmm? We work hard to get something that we can enjoy, and it's also short lived, and then it's gone. And in the meantime, the material world throws sickness at us, throws old age at us, hmm? Even knowledge of what's going to happen in the future, what lurks in the future. It's no way to live. So we try to make ourselves happy, but at best, it's temporary. Permanent happiness is absent in material life. Hmm? So when you see all of these things, hopefully our intelligence will kick in and cause us to come to the conclusion, I need to leave all these for a better, no anxiety type of lifestyle. Hmm? This is exactly what Krishna is offering. That's what Krishna is offering. Hmm? So this whole life of fruity work, I mean, working for myself, trying to get money, and empiric philosophy can be removed when we associate with the Supreme Lord. When we say Supreme Lord, that means the Lord Himself, the Lord's devotees, and the spiritual master. So when we direct our mind towards the instructions, say, I'm going to live by the instructions given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. He's told us who we are. We are not these bodies. We are souls. He's told us where we are, where our original home is, who He is, who we are, and who we are compared to Him. We're part and parcels of Him, but we're very, very tiny. As Lord Chaitanya says in the Shikshashtaka, oh my Lord, I'm your eternal servitor. But somehow or other, and somehow or other is important because we don't even remember how we got out of the spiritual world. So somehow or other, we have been put into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. And atom is very small. So then Lord Chaitanya also describes it that way. We are tiny. Lord loves us so much that He came to show us how to live a devotee life. He talked about it in the Battle of Kurukshetra, in the battlefield itself before the war started. He talked to Arjun and had Arjun ask all the questions. As a matter of fact, he put him in a bewildered situation so he could even complain. And then, by the will of the Lord, He says, please direct me. Let's not be just friends anymore. You be the master, the teacher, and I'll be the student. And the student gets to ask questions of the teacher. So that way, what Krishna explained, we're able to learn. And in the end, He says, abandon all varieties of religion. I've said all these things to you, but just surrender to me. And so the mind should be placed at surrendering. But the Lord is so, so merciful that even those who can't connect with the personal feature of the Lord, He allows them to start with the impersonal feature of the Lord, the Virat Rupa. It's all it all contains material planets and the demigods and so on. As He showed, it's explained in chapter 11 of Bhagavad Gita. The title itself is The Universal Form. And as He showed His universal form on request of Arjuna, then Arjuna began to describe what he was seeing. Unlimited mouths, unlimited arms, unlimited, so much, everything about Him unlimited. The Lord is unlimited. The two-handed form that was Arjuna's friend now changed to this situation, which was scary even to Arjuna. But if that's what makes some people get excited and very much in the situation of wondering about the power of the Supreme Lord, the Lord says that's all right. They want the impersonal cosmic feature. That's there. But as we were talking about yesterday when Dronacharya Prabhu was giving the class, it's the Lord that showed his universal form. But before he showed his universal form, he was the two-handed feature, just like a regular human being. Hmm? And friendly conversations initially with Arjun before the spiritual master and disciple relationship was turned by Arjun's request, was turned to, and then Krishna started explaining things. So even those who are not connecting with a personal feature where they can actually do some activities with the Lord, relate to the Lord in his rasas, he allows, all right, so this is where you're at. You cannot take my personal feature as Ram or Krishna. All right, so this is what gives you some sort of belief that's a little bit more grounded, then sure, this form would show the power of the Lord, the Virat Rupa, the universal form. So Maharaj Pariksit asked Sukadeva Goswami to go through the description a little bit at that time where we are now. He was describing more, Sukadeva Goswami was describing more of the impersonal aspect or the Virat Rupa, the universal form of the Lord. Maharaj Pariksit was not in that situation. And by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we're not in that situation either. We are connected with the personal feature of Lord Sri Krishna. So for him, he didn't need it. No Virat Rupa description. But there are others who need. Therefore, he was allowing this situation to happen so that he could, so that some of those devotees, I mean, some of the conditioned souls could also begin their path from the impersonal, hopefully, to the personal form of the Lord. So you see, in that is mercy. There's mercy built in because the Lord could say, all right, and some of us are like that. I am personal. You don't believe it? That's tough. That's your problem. Hmm? Those who believe it, they'll go home. Those who don't believe it, that's them. Hmm? But the Lord is not like that. The Lord is very, 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 very merciful. Therefore, he gives a place where the person is comfortable with and starts there and allows the person to grow. Hmm? In chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, it's like that also. He describes devotional service is the way to connect with me. Hmm? One can know the Lord only by devotional service. Bhakti amama vijanati. But some people say, I don't want to do devotional service. All right, then support those who are doing devotional service. Give them support. No, well, and then he goes down and down, down to get to the point where they can cultivate some knowledge and some renunciation and slowly get up to the same point of submitting to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this case also, no personal, all right. My universal form is there. If that is what you can relate to better, then start there. Hmm? And so what we learn from this is there are those who will meet in this material world that are not ready to connect with Krishna. But wherever they are, do something for them to begin their spiritual life. One of the easiest things to do is to give them a snack that's been offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nobody turns away food. Hmm? But we give Krishna's mercy, prasadam. Hmm? The other day, there was one, this is, today is Tuesday, so 2 days back, Sunday, we had the temple in Harrisburg. And actually, I was supposed to give the class that afternoon. And on my way, I got a call. There's something wrong with our kitchen sink, and half the kitchen floor is all wet with water, and can you come do something about it? So I got there, but I also know the person who did the last work on it. So I called him, and by the Lord's arrangement, he was available. And he said, yes, I will come. So I looked at the situation, and quite frankly, I couldn't have fixed it, especially the way my body is now. 10 years ago, yeah, I had the strength to move things around, but not now. So he came, and when he finished, he says, I'm not even going to ask any, charge from you. I should have actually secured the pipes underneath the sink better. This is the kitchen sink in the temple. But at that time, we had finished the lectures and had a tribute to Gopal Krishna Swami, and then come downstairs to the basement for Prashadam. So he was there, and he was getting ready to leave. But we asked him to sit down. Yeah, sit down. He sat down, and that was Prashadam. So he went and got Prashadam and found out that there was even a container that you could take Prashadam to go. So he packed to go, and then he made another plate for himself, and we started talking. And he was so very thank you for inviting me. Thank you. He came to fix the sink, but he said, thank you for inviting me. Hmm? Took Prashad, he just sat and he had it, and it was very nice. We all enjoyed Prashad. It was very tasty. Hmm? So in every situation, you never know. We always should think in terms of how we can assist everyone, because the more we assist, hmm, the happier Krishna is with us. Why? He wants all of his, parts and parcels in the prison to go back to Godhead and live a life of no anxiety and everything provided, and not have to work for anything. Hmm? So this is the inconceivable potency of the Lord Srila Prabhupada is describing. He can move in human society, in the association of living beings, other living beings. Sometimes it doesn't have to be human all the time. Even Lord Varaha is a bull. Lord Matsya is a fish. Lord Kurma is a tortoise. So, and then there's a half man, half lion, Lord Nishringadev. So he moves in different species, and he remains the same omnipotent Lord without the slightest deviation from his transcendental position. So we're fortunate to know about the Lord, and if we continue to hear about the Lord, then our minds would be purified, and it will be directed towards not just partly connecting with the Lord, but fully connecting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in that way, our lives will actually be saved. Hmm? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada quoted in chapter 9, which is called the most confidential knowledge, text 11, that fools deride me when I descend in the human form. Avajanati mam muda manusim tanim ashrita. Param bhavam ajanantu mama bhuta maheshwara. They don't know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. So the Lord can appear in any kind of form that he chooses for the purpose that he himself has arranged. It's all by his supreme will. But when he comes in the human form, like he was with Arjuna, and then people think, oh, he's just like us. So it was actually important that Krishna arranged for the universal form to make the big statement as to who the Lord was. Yeah, he may look like a human, but we can't in any way make up any type of universal form, but the Lord can. So he is like this by his own sweet will, and he relates to us in love by his sweet will in the human form, but he is a supreme Lord. Even if he is a baby by his pastime, he can kill a 12-mile long demon like Putana, a 9-mile long snake like that. All these demons Get rid of him. Agasura. He's young then. He looks like he's growing like everybody else. But the things that he can do puts him in a category way different from all of us. So if we, as Lord Chaitanya is saying, put ourselves at the lotus feet of the Lord like an atom, surrendered atom, then the Lord will protect us and the Lord will make our lives happier, not only here, but also in the spiritual world, finally, we believe. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have heard about Gopal Krishna Maharaj, him leaving maybe 2, 3 days ago. We will also go. And as I remember, my Guru Maharaj left his body about less than 20 years ago. He was saying before he left that we depart in order to meet again. We depart to meet again. So the spiritual masters depart so that they will meet us again in a more enjoyable, anxiety-free level in the spiritual world. So yes, we do miss the association when they're gone. It was very heartbreaking to hear Gopal Krishna Swami, he's hurt himself, and then he's had 3 heart attacks, and then his blood is pumping, his heart is pumping only at 20%. The next day, the news came he had left his body. So Krishna arranged for him to go back. We have to keep Lord Chaitanya's society strong. We have to unite and take Srila Prabhupada's instructions as our life and soul. Then we'll be able to save this planet. This planet, many people in the planet are not even going to have human bodies next life. Because if you act in the mode of ignorance, automatically the next life is in a non-human species. And far too many people are acting in the mode of ignorance. So yes, we're fortunate to be in this situation, but we also should extend the mercy and help others in that way. So just like Maharaj Pariksit was asking Shukadeva Goswami, this question is totally out of mercy. Those who cannot relate or can't bring their minds to relate the Supreme Personality of Godhead on a personal level, please show how these dirty things can be taken out of the mind. And even if the person is not ready for a personal relationship, at least it is very powerful to conceive of the universal form of the Lord. That they can start there and go. But for us devotees, that's just to help those who are non-devotees. But devotees are to relate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a personal way, because that's where all the enjoyment really is. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much for allowing me to do the service. And now it's time, if you want to share some takeaways, ask questions, or make some connections with what's been said, realizations, then you can unmute yourself. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So please unmute yourself if you want to share. Hare Krishna. All right, I don't hear anything, so I would ask, with your permission, to end this class. Panchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhve evacha Chitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Vaishnav Thakur Ki Jai. Gaura Pramanande Hari 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 Bo Jai. Have a nice rest of the week. Krishna conscious way. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.